Services to update the comprehensive plan and land use ordinance and subdivision ordinance, and to prepare a recommendation for action at the regular City Council meeting of December the 5th. We have the two firms, KLJ with Sababa, and we have the Community Design Group with WSB and Associates. Open to discussion with regard to the presentations. Please.
I'll start. When we were given the original 4 proposals, I went through them and I had ranked KLJ as my number 1 choice, and coincidentally, without giving the other ones, I had went with CDG, or the other one that we had, as my number 4 choice. I thought it was going to be very, very easy going into it, since I had already kind of made a decision going in. And I was blown away by CDG and WSB's proposal. I thought that they did really well. I think they, even though I didn't think that they understood who we are as a community, I was very sold on their presentation, and I would definitely be leading towards them moving forward.
Mr. Mayor?
Please.
I would certainly 100% concur with Councillor Dropa's recommendation. I think that they blew me away as far as answering the question. One of our big pieces in the comprehensive land use plan is to address zoning ordinances, and I'm confident they will deliver on that. And I was impressed with the energy. 4 people came up, all just enthused and a lot of energy, a great track record. A lot of work in Minnesota, so I'm confident that they won't be spending our money learning about Minnesota rules as it pertains to zoning and land use. So I feel that they're by far the best choice.
And including in the conversation, a member of the Planning Commission, Paul Nevin, so if you please chime in whenever you desire to also. I certainly think both firms are very qualified. My preference would be KLJ. I think their primary goal is a good plan. I also like the fact that they have a local connection with Sababa, Danielle Schemmerhorn. I think this group is stronger in the planning area than the community design group. And also, I think finally they are within our budget of $98,000. We've got a budget of $100,000 set aside. CDG is over budget by about $6,000 or $7,000, and so I see a challenge with that being over what we have budgeted for this project. Other thoughts?
I'll go next. I have to echo what Harley and Cynthia said. You know, I thought they both gave great presentations, and I thought I was really going to go with KLG until the other ones came in, and I had shared with a couple people before I left that, you know, unless they blow it out of the water, I was going to go with number 1. But I really thought that the CDG with the WSB experience in zoning, I thought that gal really seemed enthused and knew what she was talking about, and I think having the expertise with the zoning, and ordinances, which is huge, which is the biggest aspect, I think, of this plan that we need to have happen, and then being in Minnesota, understanding Minnesota law and everything else, I have to go with them.
I thought both groups had certainly had the resume background. They worked with a number of different size cities, doing both the whole scope of what we were asking for, and they both gave good presentations. And I too was leaning toward KLJ until the community design group. My biggest concern was they were too urban, they were too hip. But I think given the fact that I think KLJ referenced the fact that they would do a makeover, or a makeover, what was the terminology that they used? Rather than an overhaul of our zoning laws. I think a little bit for me. And then when I look at the budget that Community Design Group put, the biggest part of their budget is in the land use regs and zoning. So I think that's going to be a focus that we're going to need the most help. And again, in the context of the Voyage Forward and some of the discovery work that's been done in terms of our demographics and transportation, I think a lot of that core work's been done to some degree. And I think maybe we could shift a little bit of the cost because that won't be necessary maybe as I look at both real strong firms, but I lean more toward to design group because of the zoning expertise.
I wasn't here obviously because of work, but I did read on both of them and they were all close to me. But if the majority of the people that were here listening thought that's what we're looking for, I can be comfortable voting for them.
Ken, did you want to add anything?
I think my opinions are comparable to most people's. I think the thing that distinguishes CDG from KLJ is the experience that they have with zoning ordinances and updates. And what would be important about that from a staff perspective is that's typically what we would look at more on a day-to-day basis is what's in the zoning standards or the land use regulations. Subdivision regulations are something we haven't typically had to deal with, but I think the council and the planning commissioners heard that there's a lot of value in doing both at the same time, meaning the comprehensive planning process and the subsequent zoning or land use regulation update and the planning update at the same time. There's value in that. And my perception was that I think the Community Design Group and WSB, I think they were stronger on being able to prepare the land use regulation and the ordinance updates. And I think they're both very capable of doing the planning. And I was impressed that really everybody that was here was very qualified, very professional, and I think would have a adequate rapport with our citizens that they could. But I agree with, I guess what I hear the majority saying is that I think CDG seemed to be stood a little bit higher in terms of their qualifications to do the zoning and plating ordinance updates versus LJ.
Mayor, I would make a motion that we make the offer that we send a contract to Comprehensive Community Design Group.
I understand your motion, Councillor, is to recommend to the City Council meeting that we enter into a contract with Community Design Group and WSB for the comprehensive plan and land use ordinance
Thank you.
and
Yes, that's what I meant to
subdivision
say.
ordinance.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
Second by Councillor Briggs. This would be a recommendation to the City Council then. Further discussion on the motion or the groups? Please.
The one thing to your comment earlier about the cost, the other one, KLJ was in our price range, and this is slightly out. It is a not to exceed $106,500. So with some of the legwork that we've already had done with Voyage Forward, it sounded in the proposal that they would be able to utilize some of that information, if not a majority of that information. So I can see, since it's not to exceed $106,500, it probably could get underneath that as well. So just an opportunity that we have moving forward.
I think given their location, though, that probably their expenses are going to be a little more, and so it's going to be, I'm sure they'll use up all the 106,000, so I think we'll have to decide how we're going to fund that last 6,500 over what we have budgeted. Dan?
Yes, is the contract they're talking about a firm contract, or is it adjustable, or what are the terms and conditions so you wind up with the amount of money that it will cost exactly or approximately?
Well, I think that it's approximately, but I think that generally when they get to traveling here and spending time in meetings, that it'll end up being the full amount.
Okay.
I think they'll utilize every dollar
that they have outlined to achieve in terms of numbers or actual results as far as what happens, or the general feeling here, which a lot of these studies have been, there has been numbers in them, all right, but when it comes down to figure out where we're heading for as far as an ultimate goal, here, there's been an extraordinary amount of absenteeism.
I would think Councillor Droba's question on with regard to the budget, I guess we would need to either have some discussion with them with regard to the fact that it's over our budget, or we need to plan some other way to come up with that 6,500.
So in essence, it's really sort of a relationship deal at this point in time.
Yes.
Thank you.
Further discussion on the recommendation to the City Council?
Mayor,
Please.
as you pointed out, this would be a recommendation to the City Council, and for the published notice that we put in the newspaper, we included this on the regular meeting agenda, which will commence at 4:30. So while this is a special meeting of the City Council, because of how we publicize this, I think formal action should be taken by the council at the next meeting, and you pointed that out. Also, though, this evening at 6 o'clock, we have the Truth and Taxation public meeting to talk about the proposed budget for 2017. And if this is a recommendation that would ultimately be approved by the City Council, the council would have the opportunity to amend the draft budget and to add to the monies that we have already budgeted in 2016, which was $100,000. We could add an additional $6,500 in the 2017 budget to provide full funding for the anticipated not-to-exceed fee of $106,500. And without looking at any specific line items, I would probably recommend that come out of monies that we've set aside in one of the other departments for future capital outlay improvements, so it wouldn't negatively impact our operational expenses for 2017. So that's just something that the council can keep in mind, and what we had envisioned, at least at a staff level, tonight we would have the public meeting at 6 o'clock. I'll go through a brief presentation like we did last year and just identify the highlights in the budget proposed for 2017. And then we had identified final adoption at the regular meeting on December 19th, so we would have the next couple weeks to make any changes that the council wants to the budget, and this particular issue of a deficit of $6,500 could be addressed in the interim.
It's my understanding we can't increase the levy.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep. So we would
Has
have
to
to
be a
take it.
drawdown.
We would have to take it from somebody else, from some other line item in the budget, but not increase the levy. We cannot increase the levy over what was preliminary set in September.
Mr. Mayor, since we're on the topic, I think there's going to be, because there is excess, there's funds being generated over the lease payments in Fund 208, so we could even take $6,500 from there. I think ultimately, and that's a discussion for council, but ultimately this plan, I hope, will have a positive impact on economic development. So I think we can justify it.
Okay, further discussion on the recommendation? Question?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll vote no. Motion is carried, four for the motion and one against. And the recommendation to the City Council will be to enter into the contract with Community Design Group. Thank you. With that, having conducted the meeting, the purpose of the meeting for the special City Council meeting, we'll stand adjourned till 4:30.